Heavenly Father, you never cease to relate to us in various amazing and creative ways. Through the wonders of technology, though not face to face, you allow our ideas to be shared with ease despite physical distance. You bring us closer to each other in an instance, and even to strangers. You help us build new friendships as your virtual messengers. Send your Holy Spirit to inspire us as we begin this online gathering. Bless everyone who toiled to make this project possible, the speakers, the facilitators, the technical crew, as well as the participants and viewers. We ask this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Blessed Carlo Acutis, pray for us.
Hello, Orians! Good morning. So thank you so much for being with us today. By the way, I am Sir Al, your high school and senior high school math teacher. With me is
Odette Andaya, your GPTA High School President.
Alright, so wow, Ma'am Andaya.
Good morning.
So, a beautiful morning to you, Ma'am Odette.
You
so,
too, good
kumusta
morning.
man ang ato ang kuan Odette, ato ang how we go with things regarding the pandemic?
We have to give this positive vibe.
Positive
so
vibes.
game on pa rin.
Game on pa rin, no? Like, Ma'am Odette is a parent of 3 wonderful
Orians.
daughters, right?
Yes.
And as well as Orians, no?
Yes.
So, you have one student naman sa FSU karon, Ma'am Odette. So,
Yes.
how are you handling things regarding Rafaela, no? Sa schooling?
She's coping. She now knows how to really just be cool.
Cool.
Kasi bawal ang ma-stress.
Tama, no?
Yeah.
Bawal ma-stress, labi na sa in these times that we are learning by ourselves, right? And then kung ma-stress ka, di ba? Who are you with, right? Kung ikaw na kaugalingon.
Yeah.
And how about, ma'am, si Rafaela, how does she work with things online?
Oh, she's very much online. So there are times that we just cannot disturb her because she's there on the
Lagi,
computer or on her phone. So, nindot ni nga usapan kasi
Tama.
very relevant to every parent listening right now and to the children. So, we have to learn a bit more of something that is very available.
Tama. Especially you, Ma'am Odette, no, that you are quite busy with some other things like work, right? Then we have limited time with our kids, with your daughter, di ba, sa pagbantay. So, this topic that we have today is very important for us to be reminded of things, no, on how to deal with things and how to teach our kids to deal with things online, right?
Exactly.
So we also would like to kumusta ato ang mga mga Orion viewers and our viewers or parents as well. Kumusta mo diha? So please, if you'd like to comment or you want to share with us, you can share it sa ato ang comments, right? Please share with us your experiences, and then later on you can ask questions regarding the topic, Odette, right? And also we would like to acknowledge our 202 viewers. Wow! As early as
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock na natay 202 viewers, right? Especially nga ato ang mga viewers, ato ang mga kids. It's a weekend, right, Ma'am Odette?
Yeah,
So we can
I
expect
wonder.
them to be up this early, right?
But I guess the topic is interesting enough para sa'yo sila magising.
Yeah,
Ayan.
especially the parents as well. And also, since talking about sayo mo gising, we would like to commend the early birds nga nagtutok sa ato ang show karon. We have shout out to Ram, to Perry. We also have Mitch. Hello, Mitch. We have Claire, Perry. We have City. And then we have Leia and also Mary.
Yeah, Christine is here, Michelle, Angel Zen, Lorena, Kay, Mark, tus ang daghan na nila. Carl, Crizella, Marvin, good morning sa inyong tanan.
And our very own student government president, Hi Sai. And as well as our my fellow teachers, we have Ma'am Elvira Sulawan. Hello, Ma'am. She's together with her kids pod, no, watching. We have BJ, Dano, Chanel, and Angel. Wow, grabe, dagan na kahit ang mga viewers karon.
Pwede man siya si Joel, si Julia Lim, o si Hannah.
Julia Lim, hello.
Hannah's here too.
Right. And with us here sa studio, we have our very own principal, no? And the assistant principal, we have Ma'am Maria Lourdes Bernadette V. Sanchez, and as well as
Father James.
Father James, our assistant to the principal, na po diri joining with us, no? Because this topic is really very important. No? Also, we will be expecting so many knowledge that we will get from our guest speaker, right, Ma'am Odette?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And talking about our speaker, so without much further ado, we would like to introduce, no, for you to get to know who will be talking in front of you. Our guest speaker for today is a certified Orian because he studied here in Orius during his grade school and high school years. And he took up AB Political Science and then Bachelor of Laws in the University of San Carlos, Cebu City, and finished last 2008.
He was partner at Bacala, Udarbe and Associates Law Offices last January 2014 up to June 2018. Attorney 4 at Butuan City Water District, January 2014 up to December 2014. Court Attorney, Clerk of Court 5 at the Supreme Court of the Philippines Regional Trial Court Branch 2 from July 2009 up to December 2013. Immediate past President, now ex-officio board member of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, Agusan del Norte Chapter, 2019 up to 2021. Past chairperson of the Butuan City Mobile Force Company, PNP Patrol Program Advisory Council, 2019 up to 2021. And lastly, past master, Free and Accepted Masons of the Philippines, Butuan Lodge number 299.
And currently, he is a law professor here in the College of Law of FSUU, and as well as a managing partner of BG Udarbe and Partners Law Offices, and our very own grade school PTA president. Everyone, we give you Attorney Dindo Gangka Udarbe.
Good morning, everyone. Before we will start with our discussion on cybersecurity, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Sir Al, of course, and Ma'am Odette for here with us today. And then the faculty and staff of the FSU Basic Education, headed by its principal, Ma'am Sanchez, who requested, or not requested, but who ordered me to be your guest speaker today. How can I say no to my favorite chemistry teacher way back in high school? I also would like to greet the FSUU GPTA officers, the president of the high school department, we have here Ma'am Odette, and then the student governments of the FSUU grade school and high school departments, headed by its presidents, Domara G. Udarbe, my daughter of the grade school department, and her counterpart for the high school department, Cyril Rosales. And of course, the technical staff we have here today. Thank you for assisting us. Okay, let's start, shall we? So, our topic today is about cybersecurity. So, today we will be, for the most part, we'll be discussing the salient provisions of Republic Act 10175 or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. But we will also be discussing in passing provisions of other laws such as Republic Act 9344, otherwise known as the Juvenile Justice Welfare Act, because I understand most of our viewers or participants today are elementary and high school students. So most of our viewers are below 18 years old, or the so-called children in the eyes of the law. We will also discuss Republic Act 10627, or the Anti-Bullying Act of 2013, and then Articles 2176 and 2180 of the new Civil Code on Vicarious Liability of Parents. Because again, since most of our viewers are minors or children under the law, it is possible that they have no criminal liability under the law. We will discuss further on this later on. But based on these provisions of the new Civil Code, the parents may be civilly liable for the acts committed by their children. Okay, let's proceed. So we will discuss Republic Act 10175 or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. So just a brief history. Now, this act was signed into law by President Benigno Aquino on September 12, 2012. But when this law was still enacted by Congress, it actually raised a lot of eyebrows because people were quite apprehensive of the legal implications of this law, because they thought in one way or another the law may curtail some of their constitutionally protected rights. So there's actually controversy when this law was passed, because it received mixed reactions, and particularly how its provisions could potentially affect the freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and data security in the Philippines, which are constitutionally protected. So, after the law was passed, there was actually a petition filed before the Supreme Court seeking for a temporary restraining order. And in fact, on October 9, 2012, the Supreme Court issued a TRO pausing the implementation of the law for 120 days. And yet, on February 18, 2014, the High Court finally ruled on the constitutionality of certain provisions of the cybercrime law. Nonetheless, some of the provisions of the law were struck down, such as Section 4, which penalizes the posting of unsolicited commercial communications or spam. I know, daghan sa ato dire, we have email addresses, di ba? We receive spam from time to time. So this was struck down by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional. And then we have Section 12, which authorizes the collection or recording of traffic data in real time, as well as Section 19 of the original law, which authorizes the DOJ to restrict or block access to suspected computer data. And lastly, Section 7, as far as it authorizes the prosecution of an offender under online libel and libel under the revised penal code, and also where it pertains to child pornography for being in violation of the prohibition against double jeopardy. Because I understand Section 7, one of the sections struck down by the Supreme Court for being unconstitutional, double jeopardy means being subjected to the same criminal prosecution twice. So, insofar as this law, Section 7, authorizes the prosecution of an offender who may already be subjected to prosecution under the revised penal code, thus it would constitute double jeopardy. Let's proceed. Now let us define what is cybercrime. Now, cybercrime is defined under the law as computer-oriented crime that involves a computer and a network. The computer may have been used in the commission of a crime, or it may be the target. And then let us know what is information and communication technology system. So under the law, it refers to a system intended for and capable of generating, sending, receiving, storing, or otherwise processing electronic data, data messages, or electronic documents, and includes the computer system or other similar device by or in which data is recorded or stored, or any procedures related to the recording or storage of electronic data message or electronic document. Well, this includes your cell phones, tablets, and other electronic devices. Okay, let us now discuss the salient features of Republic Act 10175. Our discussion today will just focus on the prohibited acts, so our viewers will know what are the acts punishable under this law. So under this law, the prohibited acts are categorized into three. We have cybercrime offenses. There's also a subcategory, offenses against confidentiality, integrity, and availability of computer data and systems, computer-related offenses, and content-related offenses. And under Section 5, other offenses, this includes aiding or abetting in the commission of cybercrime, and attempt in the commission of cybercrime. And Section 6, all crimes and penalized by the revised penal code as amended and special laws if committed by or through or with the use of information and communications technologies shall be covered by this law. So meaning to say, there may be other crimes already punishable under the revised penal code, which may also be prosecuted under the law if it is with the use of communications technology. Okay, let us proceed. Now, what are the crimes or types of cyber crimes under the first paragraph or under Section 4? First, we have illegal access. Second, illegal interception. We'll discuss further on this later on. Third, data interference. Fourth, misuse of devices. And lastly, we have cyber squatting. Now, the penalty for these crimes is prisión mayor. So it means imprisonment of 6 years and 1 day up to 12 years, or a fine of at least 200,000 pesos up to a maximum amount commensurate to the damage incurred, or both. Now, if it is committed against a critical infrastructure such as the government, a higher penalty will be imposed by the courts because the imposable penalty is reclusión temporal or imprisonment for 12 years and 1 day up to 20 years, or a fine of at least 500,000 pesos and up to a maximum amount commensurate to the damage incurred, or both. Okay, let's proceed. And let's talk about illegal access. This is the first type of cybercrime under this law. Now, illegal access has been defined as the access to the whole or any part of a computer system without right. Well, that's self-explanatory. You're not allowed to access anyone's computer without any right or permission from the owner. So that alone is punishable under this act. Okay, let us proceed. The second punishable act under this law is illegal interception, which has been defined as the interception made by technical means and without right of any non-public transmission of computer data to, from, or within a computer system, including electromagnetic emissions from a computer system carrying such computer data. Now, I'm no computer geek, but by just basing on this provision or definition, it means any interference or interception. So, pwede ni buhaton sa atong mga service provider or technical men who are not knowledgeable in this matter. Provided, however, that it shall not be unlawful for an officer, employee, or agent of a service provider whose facilities are used in the transmission of communications to intercept, disclose, or use that communication in the normal course of employment while engaged in any activity that is necessary to the rendition of service or to the protection of the rights or property of the service provider, except that the latter shall not utilize service observing or random monitoring other than for purposes of mechanical or service control quality checks. So please take note that although service provider or its technical staff may be allowed to intercept information, the only requirement is that it shall not be utilized for other purpose other than for the mechanical purposes or service control quality checks. Now let's talk about data interference. It has been defined as the intentional or reckless alteration, damaging, deletion, or deterioration of computer data, electronic document, or electronic data message without right, including the introduction or transmission of viruses. We have heard of a lot of viruses, computer viruses before. And before the advent of this law, or before the passage of this law, it is very hard for our authorities to prosecute the offenders because we actually have no law on this. Good thing, we now have the Cybercrime Act. We can now prosecute the offenders, especially those who created the viruses who caused damage to the systems of the computers of some companies, even the government. But medyo sayang, no? If we have persons, di ba, who are capable of creating viruses, it means they are you have the capacity. I mean, they are geniuses. So, I know, there's a movie na nakita na ako before wherein the so-called hacker, instead of prosecuting the hacker, he was actually hired by the government, but because of his talents. But it's just like giving a premium to those who violate our laws, since we already have our Cybercrime Act. So we should put them in jail and incarcerate them instead of giving them premium for the violations they committed. Okay, let's proceed. Number 4, system interference. So this is the intentional alteration or reckless hindering or interference with the functioning of a computer or computer network by inputting, transmitting, damaging, deleting, deteriorating, altering, or suppressing computer data or program, electronic document, or electronic data message without right or authority, including the introduction or transmission of viruses. Actually, this is similar to the previous one that we discussed, data interference. But the other one refers to data, and this one refers to the entire system. Now let's talk about misuse of devices. This is also a prohibited act. So under the first paragraph, the use, production, sale, procurement, importation, distribution, or otherwise making available, intentionally or without right, of any of the following: a device, including a computer program, designed or to adapt primarily for the purpose of committing any of the offenses under this act, or second, a computer password, access code, or similar data by which the whole or any part of a computer system is capable of being accessed, with intent that it be used for the purpose of committing any of the offenses under this act. So this time we're talking about the devices, or even methods used in the commission of the crimes as defined under this law. But please take note that under the second paragraph, the possession of an item referred to in paragraphs 5I or A and B above with intent to use said devices for the purpose of committing any of the offenses under this section is also punishable. So if the mere possession of these devices can already put you in trouble if you have no authority. So please be aware of this, and please be mindful. Now let's talk about cyber squatting. This is the 6th punishable act or prohibited act under this law. Now, cyber squatting means the acquisition of a domain name over the internet in bad faith to profit, mislead, destroy reputation, and deprive others from registering the same. If such domain name is similar, identical, or confusingly similar to the existing trademark registered with the appropriate government agency at the time of the domain name registration. And second, identical or in any way similar with the name of a person other than the registrant in case of a personal name, and acquired without right or with intellectual property interests in it. Oftentimes, I receive emails from banking institutions warning us of some of these bogus emails we receive from time to time, wherein you are required to enter your account details, including your password. And some of these emails came from individuals who pretend to be representatives of this banking institution. So this is actually a case of cyber squatting, because they pretend they pretend to be somebody they are not. And we will elaborate on this later on, because we have other similar crimes still punishable under this act, similar to cyber squatting. So please take note of this. Okay, let's proceed. So the other types of cyber crimes. We have computer-related forgery, and then computer-related fraud, computer-related identity theft. So actually, fraud or forgery is already punishable under the revised penal code, but if the means used by the perpetrator or the offender is through data, or it was committed through the use of electronic devices, then the perpetrator may be prosecuted under this act. So the types of cybercrime, we have computer-related forgery again, computer-related fraud, and computer-related identity theft. Please take note that the penalty for these crimes is prisión mayor, or imprisonment of 6 years and 1 day up to 12 years, or a fine of at least 200,000 pesos up to a maximum amount commensurate to the damage incurred, or both. Actually, for computer-related fraud, the penalty is the same. Provided, however, if damage has not yet been caused, the penalty imposed shall be 1 degree lower. The same with computer-related identity theft. So, masking wala pa'y damage na caused ang inyong forgery or fraud committed online or with the use of electronic devices, you may be, or you may already be liable under this act. Let's proceed. Let's talk about computer-related forgery. This means the input, or as defined under the law, it is the input, alteration, or deletion of any computer data without right, resulting in authentic data with the intent that it be considered or acted upon for legal purposes as if it were authentic, regardless whether or not the data is directly readable or intelligible. Or the act of knowingly using computer data, which is a product of computer-related forgery, is defined herein for the purpose of perpetrating a fraudulent or dishonest design. So forgery under the revised penal code. Classic case, when you forge somebody's signature, di ba? If you forge a document manually, like you alter some of its contents, or maybe forge a signature of another, that's the basic concept of forgery. But if it is if electronic devices are used in order to commit forgery, then you may be punished under this act, because nowadays, especially during the pandemic, di ba? Wherein all transactions are made online. Nowadays, we have these e-signatures which have been authorized in the what do you call this? In entering or drafting of documents or transactions. So if you forge the e-signature of another, then you may be prosecuted under this act. Now let's talk about computer-related fraud. It has been defined as the unauthorized input, alteration, or deletion of computer data or program or interference in the functioning of a computer system, causing damage thereby with fraudulent intent, provided that if no damage has yet been caused, the penalty imposable shall be 1 degree lower. Unauthorized input, alteration, deletion of computer data. Actually, this is similar to the previous ones we've discussed. But please take note, do not be confused to our viewers, di ba? Some of the acts punishable under this law may seem similar or even identical. And because this act is relatively a new law, we still don't have much jurisprudence to guide us in the application of the laws. But please take note that even if the provisions of the law are somewhat similar or identical, if you commit an act which may be punishable under different sections of the same act, it may be filed simultaneously if it falls under one category or another. So we still have to wait for our Supreme Court to enlighten us or give us enlightenment on this when they decide on actual cases relating on the matter. And let's talk about computer-related identity theft. Now, this is common. The intentional acquisition, use, misuse, transfer, possession, alteration, or deletion of identifying information belonging to another, whether natural or juridical, without right, provided that if no damage has yet been caused, the penalty imposable shall be 1 degree lower. Again, this is common. If you have social media accounts, if you have a Facebook account, diba? You have heard from your friends na sometimes na ay mga posers using their profile and names, and then mag-add sila og friends. They just based on your friend list, and then add some of your friends, and then your friends will think that it is your second or even third account, because some of our Facebook users have different accounts. Then again, some of these posers would actually, after you receive or accept their friend requests, what they do is to sometimes they solicit money. Just recently, I received a friend request from a friend who is actually a high-ranking official of a financial institution here in the city. What happened was, after I received his friend request, I didn't know that the request I received was from somebody else, so I accepted the friend request. But what I did, I screenshot the friend request and sent it to my friend. It took time for him to reply to my message. So after I accepted the friend request of that somebody who bears the same picture and name in Facebook, I received a reply from my friend saying that he has only one account in Facebook. Later on, I received a message from my new friend with the same name and picture of that of my real friend. And then that person asked for money, actually, because according to him, actually I was one of the winners of some contest, online contest, but I need to deposit an amount for me to claim my prize. So that's it. That person, if only we have the time to run after this person, then we can hold him liable for violation of this act, especially under Section 4B, Computer-Related Identity Theft. Okay, let's proceed. So the remaining crimes under this law or punishable acts is cybersex, child pornography, and libel. Now, the penalty for cybersex is prisión mayor, or imprisonment of 6 years and 1 day up to 12 years, or a fine at least 200,000 pesos, but not exceeding 1 million pesos or both. So actually, the penalty is higher for cybersex. And then we have child pornography. The penalty is, the imposable penalty shall be 1 degree higher than that provided for in Republic Act 9775 if committed through a computer system. By the way, Republic Act 9775 is the law which punishes child pornography. And then lastly, we have libel, online libel, which the imposable penalty of which is prisión correccional in its maximum period to prisión mayor in its maximum period, or a fine ranging from 6,000 pesos up to a maximum amount determined by the court or both, in addition to the civil action which may be brought by the offended party. Okay, let's discuss each one. Now, cybersex has been defined. It refers to the willful engagement, maintenance, control, or operation, directly or indirectly, of any lascivious exhibition of sexual organs or sexual activity with the aid of a computer system for favor or consideration. Actually, this is common nowadays. But please take note that it refers to a willful engagement. So if somebody was forced to perform acts online, which is against his or her will, then that person may not be prosecuted under this act, because it only punishes the willful engagement of acts. And then we have child pornography. or the unlawful or prohibited acts defined and punishable under Republic Act number 9775 or the Anti-Child Pornography Act of 2009. If it is committed through a computer system, then a prosecution under this act may be had. And then lastly, we have libel. The unlawful or prohibited acts of libel is defined in Article 355 of the Revised Penal Code. By the way, to our audience, libel is practically putting one's good name and reputation in bad light. So if you say something against a person, especially if it's untrue, and your intention is to harass, to vex, or to put that person's good name or reputation in bad light, then you may be guilty of libel. So the usual modes of libel or committing libel under the Revised Penal Code is through communication, writings, or maybe another means. But today, with our technology, libel may also be committed online. So I will have to emphasize on this section because most of you have social media accounts. So please be careful, diba? I actually have clients in the office, clients who intend to file criminal cases against persons who violated their rights. They intend to file cases of libel or online libel under this act because of posts made on Facebook. Diba? If you have a grudge against a person, you don't have to announce it to the whole world. Especially if you mention the name of that person, then whatever conflict you have with this person, the world does not need to know, because you may be prosecuted for libel under this act, and you will, of course, pay for the consequences. Now let's talk about the law enforcement procedure. We're almost done. Actually, under this law, the NBI and the PNP is tasked to organize a cybercrime unit or center manned by special investigators to exclusively handle cases involving violations of this act. It's under Section 10 of Republic Act 10175. Now, the functions of the anti-cybercrime group of the PNP is first to investigate all cybercrimes and other crimes in which information and communications technology is used in the commission of criminal acts or the object of attack. Second, to conduct data recovery and forensic analysis on all computers, computer peripherals, and storage devices and other digital evidence seized by PNP units and any other law enforcement agencies within the country. And then to provide technical investigative support to investigating units within the PNP. And lastly, to formulate guidelines for cybercrime investigation, forensic evidence recovery, and forensic data analysis. Now here's the step-by-step guide on how these agencies or the anti-cybercrime group of the PNP will handle complaints received from our citizens. First is to interview the complainant, and then after interviewing the complainant, our officers will gather information and document evidence submitted by the complainants, and then the complainant and the witnesses will execute their sworn statements. Then after this, the authorities will request for the conduct of digital forensic examination on the submitted electronic evidence. So this is what they do, diba? Like for example, if you intend to file a case for cyber libel under this act, so somebody posted on Facebook against you, especially if the post can readily identify, or I mean that the audience can readily identify that it was you who was referred to in that post, especially if there is a picture posted, or even if your name was mentioned in that post. If you intend to file a case, what you do is to, of course, normally we make a screenshot, diba, and save it in our device. But for purposes of filing a case, what we do is to bring all our saved devices or saved evidence to the authorities, and what they do is to check with the use of their own computers if this post still exists online. Actually, mo lang ni ang one of the problems or the drawbacks of this requirement, because sometimes it's too late for us to seek the assistance of the authorities and have this posts checked, because sometimes before we can even go to the cybercrime unit of the PNP, na-remove na ang post nato. So we have no way of having this post authenticated by the authorities. So in short, it will actually defeat the purpose, diba? So if there is, anyway, may evolve naman po niya itong jurisprudence and our case laws, including the processes provided to us by the authorities. But this is the only thing that I think is one of the areas that we need to look into, because sometimes it's too late in the day for us to seek the assistance of the authorities, especially so if the one who posted the material online already removed the message, then there is no way for us to authenticate, or I mean the authorities to authenticate whether the post that we showed to them was really presented or posted online. Step 6, preparation of mutual legal assistance treaty. And then next, preparation and application for court order of telco ISP to give the preserved information requested. It's like this. After the authorities have authenticated the posts online, in the given example a while ago, this duly authenticated electronic documents will be preserved, because later on, when the case is filed in court, there is a need for us again to present witnesses to prove how the document or the electronic document was being authenticated. Diba? Although it is easier for us to, diba, say that he or she posted something online against me or some other person, but we all know somebody can just use somebody's account or make another account pretending to be somebody and make some derogatory post against another person. So even if ang nigawas dito, the one who posted the article, let's say, is named Dendo Darbe, but in fact it was another person who just pretended to be Dendo Darbe, then it would also be unfair on my part to be prosecuted for an offense that I actually did not commit. So that's the reason why we have this strict authentication process in order for us to determine who the actual perpetrator really is. And then step 8, investigation report. And then lastly, the referral of the case to the prosecutor's office for eventual filing of the case before our courts. Now, if you succeed, or if you intend to file a case against somebody under this act, then the jurisdiction lies with the regional trial court. So under the law, the regional trial court shall have jurisdiction over any violation of the provisions of this act, including any violation committed by a Filipino national, regardless of the place of commission. Please take note, regardless of the place of commission. So if you are a Filipino citizen or a Filipino national, even if you are abroad, if you commit a crime punishable under this act. Even if you are out of the country, a case may still be filed against you by our authorities before our regional trial courts. So jurisdiction shall lie if any of the elements was committed within the Philippines or committed with the use of any computer system that is wholly or partly situated in the country, or when by such commission any damage is caused to a natural or juridical person who at the time the offense was committed was in the Philippines. So again, if the act was committed with the use of any computer system that is wholly or partly situated in the country, or when by such commission any damage is caused to a natural or juridical person who at the time of the offense was committed was in the Philippines. So meaning to say, if the perpetrator, if the one committing the act is in a foreign country, but it caused damage to a person or institution within the Philippines, then a case may still be filed before our courts of law. Okay, let's proceed. I think that ends our discussion on cybercrime law. We will just discuss in passing some of the provisions under other laws, such as Republic Act 9344, otherwise known as the Juvenile Justice Welfare Act. The reason why I included this law in our discussion today, because again, I understand most of our viewers are minors or children under the law. Please take note, children, that under the law, the age of criminal responsibility, before, if you are above 9 years old, you may be already prosecuted criminally. But with the advent or with the passage of this law, the Juvenile Justice Welfare Act, the age of criminal responsibility was raised from 9 years old to 15 years old. So meaning to say, by the way, the error gamay ani because actually it should have been 15 years old and below, not below 15 years old. So if you are at least 15 years old under this law, 15 years old and below, you are exempt from criminal liability. So dili sa tamagwan ha. We don't have to what do you call this? Abuse this, not just because you are a minor. You have all the liberty to violate our laws with impunity because there is still some consequences, as we will discuss later on. So again, so you will just have an idea on the age of criminal responsibility. Again, if you are 15 years old and below, you are exempt from criminal liability. But if you are at least 16, not 15, if you are at least 16 or 17 years old, you may still be exempted if you acted without discernment. Meaning to say, if you acted not knowing that what you've done is in violation of our laws, then you may still be exempt from criminal liability. Discernment, by the way, is the capacity to distinguish right from wrong. So, I have to repeat, 15 years old and below, you're exempt from criminal liability. If you're at least 17 or 16 years old, still you may be exempted from criminal prosecution provided you acted without discernment. But child offenders who are at least 16 or 17 years old who acted with discernment will still be prosecuted under this act or any provisions of the revised penal code. However, because of the passage of this act, by the way, before this act was enacted, minors who have violated some of the provisions of our revised penal code and other criminal laws or penal laws were treated the same way as other criminals. So good thing we have this Juvenile Justice Welfare Act, because now even if you are found to have acted with discernment and you are at least 16 or 17 years old and a case is filed against you, still, under this law, you may be treated. There is actually a special treatment for our minors because the purpose of this law is to give a special treatment to youthful offenders because, again, you should not be treated the same way as persons already of legal age and who have acted or who have committed the same offenses. So the purpose of the law is actually for reformation. So since you are still young, there's still a good chance for you to correct the wrongs you have done in the past. So this is actually the intention why we have this law. And actually, even if you are found guilty of the crimes charged, your sentence will be suspended. You will not actually be committed in a what do you call this? In jail, but this is what we call the term used under the law is diversion, because instead of committing you to a or incarcerating you, you will be committed to an institution wherein you will have the chance to be rehabilitated. Now, we will also discuss in part Republic Act 10627 or the Anti-Bullying Act of 2013. This was signed in 2013 by President Aquino, which mandates all elementary and secondary schools to adopt policies to prevent and address the acts of bullying in their institution. Actually, this law is intended for the educational institutions, but the reason why I included this act because one of the acts considered as bullying includes cyberbullying. So under the law, school administrators who fail to comply may face administrative sanctions, and then private schools, on the other hand, may lose their permits to operate if they fail to adopt policies to prevent and address the acts of bullying in their institutions. And the last topic we have for today is Articles 2180 and 2176 of the new Civil Code on vicarious liability of parents and guardians. Now, the reason why I included this law in our discussion, because as discussed earlier, although minors may be exempt from criminal prosecution or criminal liability, their parents or guardians may still be civilly liable or liable to pay the consequences for this act. So, under 2176 of the Civil Code, it provides that whoever by act or omission causes damage to another, there being fault or negligence, is obliged to pay for the damage done. Such fault or negligence, if there is no pre-existing contractual relation between the parties, is called quasi-delict and is governed by the provisions of this chapter. Now, relative thereto, Article 2180 of the same law states, the obligation imposed by Article 2176 is demandable not only from one's own act or omission, but also for those persons from whom one is responsible. So again, you may be exempt from criminal liability or prosecution because of minority, but dili na nagapasabot nga wala ni consequences yung mga aksyon. Because your parents or teachers or guardians may still be liable to pay civil liability to the persons whom you have caused damage. So the father, and in case of his death or incapacity, the mother, are responsible for the damages caused by the minor children who live in their company. Guardians are also liable for damages caused by minors or incapacitated persons who are under their authority and live in their company. Now, the responsibility treated of in this article shall cease when the persons herein mentioned prove that they observe all the diligence of a good father of a family to prevent the damage. Although our parents or guardians may be liable for the acts committed by minors, dili man pod automatic hinoon ang ilang liability. because there is a need to prove that they were negligent or have disregarded altogether the duties and responsibilities to their children. Because the moment they prove that they exercised the diligence of a good father of a family to prevent the damage caused by their minor children, they may be exonerated from any liability under this law. So I think that ends our discussion.
Imagine.
Grabe mo ulit, no?
Mind steering.
Yeah.
Every time Attorney Dindo would talk about these issues, parang it's 1 + 1 = oh my gosh, it's gonna happen pala. Ingana pala ang effect.
Tama. So grabe ang atong knowledge nga nakuha karon Ma'am Odette, right? Regarding how to be safe online and how to go about it if we encounter these kinds of situations. So once again, we would like to encourage our viewers, especially our students and our parents as well, to ask questions, no? Attorney Dindo is very much available for you sa karon nga session, all right? And also, we'd like to remind everyone, you don't have to comment your names, all right? Later on, a link for the evaluation regarding this show, and as well as your participation, will be sent through the comment section, all right? But before we'll proceed with the question and answers, let's hear a few reminders from our sponsors. Let's watch this.
comes out. You know?
Hello, we're back. So, I guess our viewers, our students, or our audience, and as well as parents, na yung mga questions from Odette, no? Regarding sa presentation ni Attorney Lindo. And by the way, I would like to also say thanks sa tuang PTA and as well as our SAC, SSG, no, for having this show kanang nabuhat ng show, no, regarding the webinar, no, parang webinar nga show from Attorney Lindo. So again, once again, thank you PTA sa tuang PTA, of course sa tuang mga PTA officers, and as well as the SAC, SSG. Maudet.
Thank you, thank you. We have a question here. So actually, during the break, no, dagan na kami gina question and answer diri sa among dapat. But one of our questions came from Miss Arbolonio. Sabi niya, Attorney, ikaw tubag ani ha. How do we get our hacked accounts back? Simple question for a Facebook user.
Yes, simple question from a Facebook user, but it's very hard for me to answer that. Because first, you have to check your, diba, when we make our Facebook accounts, naman yatong rules and regulations diha. I think the best, I'm not in a position to answer your question because you should address the same to Facebook or any social media account that you have, because I think it involves technicalities on how to retrieve your account. Siguro dagan na kina-store diha na mga pictures and your memories in the past years, and then for some reason your account was shut down by Facebook. So actually I'm very sorry I cannot answer that question. Again, it's a simple question, but it's very hard for me to answer because it is outside my field of expertise. So you should address that question to the the persons behind Facebook or any social media platform that you have an account.
But there's also a situation, di ba, Attorney, what if the perpetrator hacked or got the account of that person and then that perpetrator deleted the account. So wala gid siya way, di ba, nga ma-recover ba because it's deleted or maybe delete na sa perpetrator, right? So,
actually, many times I tried to get out of Facebook for many reasons. And the one thing I noticed, if you try to deactivate your account, or siguro ang worst case scenario is somebody gained access to your account and change your password, di na ginani mo ma-recover. But if you only try to deactivate your account, actually it's very, very easy for us to activate or reactivate our accounts after we have deactivated it. So if somebody else deactivated your account for no reason, as long as same lang yung password, you can access your account. You can simply reactivate it. But pag nawala na gito, maybe the hacker or somebody who got into your account is quite knowledgeable sa iyang gibuhat, and gitry gid niya nga dili gid mo ma-retrieve yung account, then maybe there's no more chance for you to retrieve your accounts. You just make another account siguro, sir?
Sir Al, I was mentioning kanina ba, I looked at one of the comments of the viewer, and sabi niya, Attorney, are we allowed to see this?
Yes, of course.
I think that was the portion where we were talking about where you were discussing about cybersex, child pornography, and curious lang ko, ngano siguro feeling niya hindi siya allowed to watch or to listen to this discussion. But actually, it should be. It should be really discussed out in the open. Tama ba?
sensitive.
Yes. Maybe the reason why one of our viewers asked this question is maybe he never accessed any pornographic material before. And that's good because I assume you're still a minor. But because nowadays it's very easy for us to access these contents online. And That's the reason why we need to praise you of all this, because even if you're still a minor, and we all know some of the minors already have access to these contents or materials. That's why there is a need for you to know what are the punishable acts under the law.
Because there are scenarios, Sir Al, no? Mga imagination ko ba, mga minors pa lang, they already are the perpetrators of cybersex.
Tama, pwede.
And, you know, sometimes, what if you become a victim now, and then eventually you turn into becoming a future offender? So as early as now, we as parents,
Educate.
make it known to them, educate the risk of this being part of their future na pangit. Dapat karon pa lang, kabalo sila nga, di sakto.
Sakto,
No?
Maudit. Also, we have another question from a student. Grabe ni Kalalom, no? Murag detailed kayo from Clyde Castilla. Hello, Clyde. One of my students. Sir, what if the intent of a person to cause dishonor and discredit to another person is presented in the form of oral defamation through video and is posted online? What is the criminal liability of the perpetrator?
Same. Kana pa na klaro na kayo, di ba?
Klaro na kayo.
Posted
Defamation.
online. With more reason, you may be liable under this law, di ba? As discussed earlier, it's very hard for us to prosecute cases under this law because of the process of authentication. There is a need for us to identify who the actual perpetrator is. But if the video is posted online, then it would be easier for our authorities to identify who that person is.
Provided that na kung ano na screenshot or na
Ah,
record,
screenshot,
right? Okay, pwede mo nila i-take down, right? Pero there's always that record naman sa platform nga na ay nag-post nga ni though it was taken down.
Yes.
Tama.
There's a way for us to authenticate that video posted online. But it is easier for us to identify, di ba? Especially if there is a video, unless of course na lang naka-mask or naka-face shield.
Lisod kayo na.
Then lisod kayo siguro. At if the identity of that person is revealed, then there's no problem. It's easier and actually to prosecute that person under this act.
That's also the thing, di ba, attorney, because with the technology that we have right now, it's so advanced. Even if imuhang face na dira, it could have been deepfaked. We have this technology called deep fake, wherein they can superimpose your face into another person's body, and then murag ikaw ang nagkuha na.
Yes.
So probably isa sa mga lisod kaayo nga i-prove na siya ang nagbuhat.
Sometimes gani ang Facebook is wala, very intelligent na kayo. Sometimes when you post a picture online, automatically itag na niya, di ba?
Tama.
Right. Association sa mga bawas.
Like you post a picture of 10 people in a picture, and then if the persons in that picture are in Facebook, automatically it will identify the faces. But sometimes, if like for example I posted something online, like my picture or a picture of my daughter na similar features, sometimes ang iyang picture mas matag sa akong account. But you know, the tagging system of Facebook or any social media platform is not yet perfect. But sometimes dangerous na siya because it readily identifies persons, di ba? Without even actually tagging those persons.
Even if you're not friends, right? No. Even if you're not friends, automatically nasa yung notifications na this might be you, di ba, na yung mga kuhan ang Facebook na naka-store na ang imuhang facial profile sa ila, di ba? So, marihan na po. So, I think we have more questions, Ma'am Odette?
May isa ka question, but I don't know how this is gonna be rephrased. We have a question from Miss Killia. Do we have to complain someone if he's unaware of the damage he caused?
Oh.
There's like I really don't know how this should be rephrased.
Maybe unintentional.
Unintentional.
Maybe
Oo,
na-post
gusto niya
on video.
mag-complain.
Actually, I'm confused. Is it possible for someone to unintentionally cause damage to another? Yes. But to post some contents online, di ba? By the way, part of my lecture is actually some of the useful tips. Can we go back to my slide? Actually, this is the one I failed to discuss earlier, but it is just contained in one slide. Might as well to address that issue. There, useful tips on how to prevent cyber crimes or cyberbullying. So let me just continue, and so I can address also the question asked by one of our viewers. So going back, here are some useful tips on how to prevent cyber crimes or cyberbullying. So number one, be vigilant. So you should avoid sharing too much information on social media. No matter how cute you think you are in your picture, you should think twice before posting it in social media, because you may be subject to, ridicule, because different persons have different opinions. And then always check your privacy settings. If you want your content or the posts you make on social media to be viewed only by your friends or for certain individuals and not by the public, then you have to check your privacy settings. Unless, of course, you are selling something, then you need the public to access your profile. But I think there's a need for you to create a separate account if you have a different purpose, diba? But for personal accounts, wherein there's only a need for you to make a connection with your loved ones or friends online, then there is a need for you to check your privacy settings. And number three, of course, be mindful of what you post or share. Don't spread rumors, inappropriate jokes, pictures, videos, and stories. Now, in relation to the question asked a while ago, pwede ba ka liable under this act even if you didn't know that you may be prosecuted criminally because you have violated unknowingly, di ba? Some of the provisions under this act. Please take note that negligence is also punishable. If you are negligent, you may be punishable under the law. So, you may be liable in two ways. If you commit a crime knowingly or intentionally, or if the crime is committed unintentionally or through negligence. So, just a piece of advice, just be mindful of what you post or share. Diba? If, I assume you are, I think ang youngest siguro ng mga viewers natin there is grade 5 or grade 6. You must be at least 11 or 12 years old. I think if you are at least 11 years old, you should be able to distinguish right from wrong, diba? You know the contents, so you know the nature of the contents you post online. So just a piece of advice, again, just be mindful of what you post or share. And especially, number 4, especially to our viewers today, who already have a grasp of our cybercrime law. Now, you cannot later on claim that you have acted without discernment, because you are now aware of the punishable acts and you are also aware of its consequences. So again, the mere fact that you are exempt from criminal prosecution or criminal liability does not mean to say that you have the liberty to violate our laws with impunity, because again, your parents may be liable.
Yeah.
Diba? Although only civilly, but they may be liable to pay damages to the person you've caused damage. And then lastly, if you have doubts, since you are minors, sometimes I remember when I was still in high school, still under 18, diba? Sometimes ginatry to portray to the public that we are now of age, diba? We know everything. That's actually a struggle for every adolescent. But please do not forget to seek advice from your parents and teachers in case of doubt, diba? So I think I answered the question of one of our viewers. So even if you're not aware of what you posted online, if it is the content you posted is punishable, then you may still be prosecuted under the law, even though if it is made unintentionally. Because again, The law punishes those who commit crimes intentionally and those who are negligent in their actions.
Tama, Attorney. No? So, earlier you made mention regarding selling something online. Since we are at the height of online selling, di ba, and online negotiations, so what if, Attorney, no, kanang na yung mga bogus buyers, na yung mga meetups nga wala ni show up, and then, what they call this, that the online seller is posting things about this person because of not showing up or not paying, would it be also liable katong person nga nag-post daw gi-scam siya or gikuan siya?
Yes, of course, they may be liable. I think we discussed in part, diba? Frauds committed through electronic means, the use of devices or through the internet. But then again, ang challenge lang diri siguro is, again, on how we can identify the perpetrator, because some of these bogus sellers or bogus buyers use fictitious accounts. Diba? If we can only identify them, then there's no problem. We can file a criminal case against these persons. But again, the challenge is for us on how to identify these persons. Because kasagari gyud, they use fictitious accounts.
So unless proven no, so we cannot post about it yet, right? Kay mo under sa libel, right?
Yes,
Attorney?
of course. Daghan gina. Actually, I have friends na online sellers, and sometimes one way for them to collect from these persons is to post their names online. Actually, that is punishable under this act. Diba?
And also, we have from Lex, no?
Yeah.
It's so long.
I'll read this
Sige.
from Lex Zulieta.
Hi, Lex. I know Lex. He's the son of Attorney Zulieta. My good
Okay.
friend.
Oh, medyo pang lawyer na rin to
Oo.
eh. Ernie, ND, ano ba yan? No. It defines sex chatting as the casual exchange of vernacular views about sexual beliefs, rumors, and behavior conducted either synchronously or asynchronously in a monitored or unmonitored environment set by the webmaster. Simply, sex chatting involves the use of words rather than images or videos. In the case of possible willing or unwilling sex chatting, what are the legal consequences, punishments, or sanctions, most especially to engaging minors?
Sex chatting. This is the first time I have encountered that term. Sex chatting. Di na ila pagkaroon, di ba?
Pero as an offense diha, para ano, ang crime ba?
If it is punishable under the law. I think it's also punishable, di ba? I think the law punishes the exposure of somebody online or engaging in this kind of activities, diba? Let me go back to the definition. Oh, can I take a look again? My slides.
May katong storya nato ni attorney na there's a documentary film that he saw on Amazon, Porno Crazy, na
So I think
14-year-old.
this is related to cybersex, but the thing is, instead of showing videos or pictures, diba?
Chatting sila.
Yung chat lang. Actually, the definition of cybersex under the law is quite broad. Willful engagement, maintenance, control, or operation directly or indirectly
Sexual activity.
of any lascivious exhibition of sexual activity. I think it falls under sexual activity, diba? The definition
The
is
talk
quite
itself.
broad, or all-encompassing to include this kind of activity, sex chatting. I'll take note of that, Lex. This is the first time I've encountered such term, sex chatting. So it is a form of sexual activity which may be punishable under this law. So I think that answers your question.
I guess ang point siguro ni Lex is that what if there's a minor but they are like boyfriend, girlfriend ba, and then they're engaging in sex chatting. Can we directly, what they call this, can they be directly liable ba, or something like that?
If they are both minors, I think the parents can do something about it, diba?
Tama.
Especially if the boyfriend or the girlfriend or one of the parties is already of age and the other one is a minor, then I think the parents has to do something, diba? If they have the chance. Of course, these exchanges are made privately, but if our parents have access to these accounts or to these exchanges, they can do something about it. The problem is if both parties are minors, ba? Because they may be exempt from criminal liability. But there is a need. Dili man kinahanglan nato i-file gyud ang kaso. Di man always kaso ang atong solusyon. We can always talk to these children or persons of their behavior or about their behavior.
Sakto. And also, I think we have already discussed about this, but ato lang i-acknowledge, no, from Mariel Alegado. Hello, Mariel, one of our grade 11 students. What if you are being verbally abused through cyberspace and you have no idea who the person is because he or she is using a fake or poser account and starts to blackmail you about harming you or your family, and you are afraid to talk to your family about it? So what should you do?
Yes, I think we discussed that earlier, di ba? The only challenge aning na mga problems mo good is to identify the person who posted the statements online or whatever post against you online. Yes, if your question is can we file a case or can we prosecute these offenders, the answer is yes. But then again, the problem is on how to identify these persons. I think that is one of the gray areas of our law. Diba? Wala pa nato na perfect yet because this is a relatively new law. It was signed into law only in 2012, and it will take years for us to at least perfect the system of how to prosecute the offenders under this law. So, again, if you're asking if it is punishable, the answer is yes. But then again, the challenge is on how to identify the persons because you mentioned, and in most cases they always use fictitious accounts.
Also, to remind Mariel as well, she made mention nga, kuan lagi daw, you might be afraid to talk to your family about it. I think the mere fear of talking to someone about it makes it even more subject to talk to your family about it, right? Okay, siguro kaya na yung mga threats, and then you don't want to talk to your family about it because it might worry your mom or your dad, nga, ma-hypertension or something like that. Di ba, all the more nga dapat iyang i-mention, iyang i-talk kay para ma-actionan sa family, right, attorney? Any other, do we have questions pa, Ma'am Odette? Do you see?
So far, let me just check.
Ayun, attorney, how about this? Regarding cyber squatting, yun. Di ba, the cyber squatting we have sa presentation earlier from you is regarding creating a domain name or something like that. What if they are making, what do you call this, a Facebook page, and then using that Facebook page to ridicule someone or something like that? Can we classify that one as cyber squatting? Creating a Facebook
I think I
page?
discussed this. Can we go back to my slides, please? I think that problem does not fall under cyber squatting, but computer-related identity theft, I think. Diba?
Pwede.
If you pretend to be someone and your purpose is to, ridicule someone or post libelous statements online, then you may be prosecuted under Section 4B on computer-related identity theft. Mas hao man diri ang definition instead of cyber squatting. Because ang cyber squatting, as I understand, again, I'm not a computer geek, but if you create like a domain or something like a page, a website, pretending to be an institution, a financial institution or whatever, in order to get information, get money, or defraud another, then that may fall under cyber squatting. But the mere creation of another Facebook account or any social media account may fall under Section 4B on computer-related identity theft. Still, it is punishable under the law.
Tama. Alright. So, I guess we have so many questions pa, but we cannot spend the whole day, right? But Probably, let's have one more. Do you have one more? Do you see one more question?
Yeah, I have one more question. It's crime in general.
Oh.
From Hannah. Attorney, what will happen if a child committed a major crime like murder? What will happen to the child who committed the crime? Can the child still be exempted to the crime that they've committed, or are the parents will the parents pay for the crime that the child has committed?
Okay, I'll answer that question. So, you mean a child. So, a
Define.
child under the law is a person who is under 18 years old. Diba? So, if that child is 15 years old and below, he or she is exempt from criminal prosecution. But if the child is at least 16 or 17 years old, there is a need for us to determine, or the courts will have to determine whether the child has acted with or without discernment. So if the child is found to have acted with discernment, then he may be prosecuted. But if later on, even if this child was found guilty by the court, he will not be committed in a penal institution, but instead he will be committed in a different institution who handles children who are in conflict with the law. There they will be treated differently from other offenders who are already of age. So when you again, as discussed earlier, diba, we said na especially to those offenders or children who are already at least 16 or 17 years old who have acted with discernment, dili man ingon na there are no consequences for your actions. You will still be required to undergo a process, but it's a different process, entirely different process from criminals who violated our laws when they are already of age. But as to parents, again, the civil code provides that if a child is criminally liable, although he is exempt from the consequences of his actions, at least criminally, diba, the parents or the guardians may still be civilly liable. So in short, the courts may still impose civil liability in the form of damages to the parents, diba? But then again, the attachment of this civil liability is not automatic because the person or the parents can still prove that in the supervision of their children, they acted with the diligence of a good father of a family. So, dili na mo attach ang civil liability automatically because there's still a chance for the parents to prove na dili po sila in the remiss of their duties as parents, I mean.
Wow. Grabe, no? Naabot na tayong order, pero I guess it's urgent po nga, no? Coming from our kids na question. Yun, so nakuha to nila. And I guess daghan pag questions, right, Ma'am Odette, but di na to makaya tanan. Maybe you can still leave the comments and we'll try to get to your comments, so mga itong matayog answer. But for now, let's have final words, Attorney. What can you say sa ato ang Orient community, our kids, and as well as our parents?
Again, napamaday chance na ako to thank the organizers of this activity. Again, I would like to say thank you to the organizers and for inviting me as your guest speaker today. And just a final piece of advice, again, na naman tayo akong useful tips before. So, just a final piece of advice. So, to our viewers today who are minors, just be vigilant, be mindful of your actions, di ba? The internet is a big avenue for us to, di ba, express our feelings or what is in our minds, but do not abuse our technology just because you have this available doesn't mean you have the liberty to, just speak out your mind or anything without thinking of the consequences, especially to our viewers today. You are now well aware of our laws. You're now well aware of the prohibited acts. So you should be careful. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Attorney. In behalf of the Orient community, thank you so much for indulging us in this show, regarding cybersecurity. And with that, we would like to present our certificate of appreciation to Attorney. Ma'am Odette, kindly read the...
Attorney Dindo, thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Odette.
So the certificate reads, Father's Attorney Noorius University Basic Education Department, Butuan City presents this certificate of appreciation to Attorney Dindo G. Odarbe for imparting his valuable knowledge and insights to the pupils and parents during the webinar with the topic on cybersecurity, given this 27th day of March 2021 at Father Saturnino Urios University, Butuan City. Signed, Maria Lourdes Bernadette V. Sanchez, Principal.
Alright.
Daghang salamat.
Daghang salamat, Attorney. Despite sa busy kita sa atong mga kuwan karon, and Attorney made time for us to be educated as well. And also, we'd like to thank Ma'am Odette for being with us today. I know
You're
Ma'am
welcome.
Odette is so busy. So let me read the citation for our certificate of appreciation to Miss Odette M. Andaya for imparting her time and experience as a host during the webinar with the topic on cybersecurity given this 27th day of March 2021 at Father Saturnino Urios University, Butuan City. Signed, Maria Lourdes Bernadette V. Sanchez, Principal. So once again, thank you so much, Odette, for being with us, and Attorney Dendo. Now, I hope we leave you with so much knowledge, so to our viewers, right, Ma'am Odette? And as well as our parents, vigilant na sila regarding their kids' activity online. So with that, we would like to partially say goodbye.
Yes.
And hope we'll see each other in the next episodes on our FB na mga shows. And also, we'd like to remind our students that the evaluation link will be posted through the comment sections. Alright? So once again, see you.
Bye. Thank you.